Hey y'all, I'm Mary. Welcome to Restless Chipotle Kitchen. Today, we're gonna make a cozy, comforting Swiss chicken and stuffing casserole. It's cheesy, it's juicy, it's absolutely delicious, and it's super easy. First thing we're gonna do is get a box of your favorite stuffing mix, and we're just gonna we're not gonna follow the instructions on the box because we're rebels, right? So we're just gonna, instead of using 4 tablespoons of butter, we're just gonna use 2 tablespoons of butter, and I'm gonna call that 2 tablespoons of butter. It may be a little bit more, but this is the South. You can never have too much butter. So I'm gonna put the butter in the water, I'm gonna microwave it, and I'll be right back. Once that water is good and hot and the butter is melted, we're just gonna take the stuffing mix and add it in and stir it. And then we're just gonna set it aside while we do everything else. The prep time on this isn't very long, maybe 10 minutes. The oven time is about an hour. I kind of like that though, because it gives me time to make side dishes and whatever else I'm making, biscuits or whatever that I'm making to go with it. All right, so there's our stuffing, and we're gonna sit it over there so it can get, well, so the stuffing fairy can come along and make it perfect, okay? The next thing we need to do is we need a butterfly chicken breast. And I wanted to wait and do this so that y'all could see how it was done. I'm sure most of y'all know how to do it, but in case you don't, humor me. You just wipe the butter off of the knife, and then you take your knife. I like to take this, like if there's fat on there, I just like to take it off. I'm not a big fan of chicken fat, and this recipe doesn't need it. Some recipes might. Also go through, and if there's any little ligaments or bones or anything like that sticking out, take those out. This is not the usual. I got this today because I had run out, and it's not the company that I usually buy from. I had to go to a local store, and I usually order. Anyway, that's a cautionary tale. Anyway, in order to butterfly it, we're gonna take the knife, and you're just gonna go straight through horizontally. Keep your hand flat on the top, hold it down, and watch where the knife goes, because you don't want to add your hand to the chicken breast. And then we're just going to slice all the way through. Now sometimes recipes want you to stop and like leave it like a pocket, like if you're going to stuff it. But for what we're going to do, we're just going to go all the way through and cut it in half so that we'll have 4 pieces of chicken. And I'm going to do that with the other one, and I'll be right back. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pound the butterfly chicken breast thin. So wash it. When you're working with raw chicken, especially raw turkey, raw meat of any kind, be sure that you wash your hands between each process so you're not cross-contaminating. Very important. It doesn't always look like I do because I will stop the video, I will edit parts out, because you don't need to see me wash my hands. But after each thing, usually, my hands get washed. So, information for another day. All right, we're gonna take the chicken breasts, and we're gonna lay them out like that. And then I'm gonna lay some cling seal over them. Sometimes I use parchment, but I was out of parchment today, so I'm just going to put some plastic wrap over them. And I used to have a meat pounder, but it broke. The top came right off, and so I started using my rolling pin, and now I kind of like my rolling pin. It's just easier. You want to pound these out uniformly thin whenever you're cooking meat. It's good to make sure that it's cut or pounded out in a uniform thickness so that it cooks evenly. The other thing this does is get out some frustration if you've had a rough day. I'm going to take my 13 by 9 pan, and just spray it with some cooking spray. If you don't use no-stick cooking spray, you can butter it or rub it with some olive oil, however you usually do to keep things from sticking. Now we're just gonna lay the chicken in the pan. We're gonna try not to overlap it, but sometimes it's almost impossible not to. So if it laps a little bit, don't worry, it'll be fine. You're gonna check the temperature. Anyway, when you take it out of the oven, it needs to be at 160 degrees with a Insta-read thermometer. And then you're gonna let it sit, but we'll talk about that later. Okay, once the chicken's in there, you're not gonna be touching raw meat anymore. So this is the point at which you're gonna take your cutting board or whatever you've been using to prepare the chicken on and wash your hands. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper on the chicken. Be careful with this because chicken stock can be salty, condensed cream soup can be salty, cheese is a little salty, and stuffing mix is salty. So you don't need a lot of salt on it, but I feel like this is gonna need a little bit. So I'm just gonna sprinkle it with some kosher salt. That's what I use. You may use table salt. If you use table salt, try to make sure that you don't use very much because the grains are much smaller and it's really easy to oversalt. Then I'm gonna put some pepper. I'm gonna add my Swiss cheese on top of the chicken breast. And I may add 2 slices just because the chicken breast is kind of long and this cheese is kind of small, but we'll see. Goes, yeah, 3. For what I'm doing, I'm gonna use 6 slices. Normally you're gonna use like 1 slice per piece of chicken, but I want it to cover the chicken up all the way. So use as many slices as you need to cover the chicken breast up all the way. And I'm gonna use half a cup of chicken stock. Chicken broth and chicken stock are a little different. And yes, it does matter which one you use, although you could use them interchangeably, but it makes a difference in flavor. Chicken stock is made with vegetables and flavoring, and chicken broth is usually just chicken and chicken bones and water. So we want a half a cup of chicken stock. That's a nice dark chicken stock. It smells really good. And then we're gonna add a can of condensed cream of chicken soup. If you don't have condensed cream of chicken, you can use condensed mushroom, you can use condensed celery, you can use condensed asparagus, condensed onion, cream of whatever. Just put that in there. And then we're just gonna whisk that up. And once again, I should have definitely gotten a bigger bowl. I was thinking that it would be okay. Gonna make a mess. Whisk that until the broth or the chicken stock is all mixed into the cream of chicken soup. Now we're just gonna pour this over the chicken and the cheese. I always like to use one of these rubber spatulas to make sure that I get as much as I can out of there. And then we're just gonna smooth it over the chicken and cheese, of course. Once that's done, I'm sure you know what goes next. We're gonna take the stuffing, which is a little dry because there's gonna be a lot of moisture while it's baking. We're gonna take the stuffing and just sprinkle it over the soup mix. And y'all know me, I'm gonna have to do this with my hands because I feel like I have more control. So you're just gonna put the stuffing on in an even layer over the top of your casserole. And you can use a spoon. I like to use my hands. Like I said, I feel like I have more control that way. I like to get as much of the surface covered up as I can. Sometimes it doesn't get all the way covered up, but you want it mostly covered up. Once that's done, you can put your dirty dishes aside because the prep is done. And you're just gonna take some aluminum foil Cover a casserole dish and seal it tight with aluminum foil. And we're gonna bake it at 325 for an hour and 15 minutes, give or take. I'm gonna check it at about an hour with the instant read thermometer. Y'all know what that is, right? Instant read thermometer. You just open it up and put it in the center of your meat and it'll tell you what the temperature is. We want to take this out at about 160 degrees. The safe temperature for chicken is 165 degrees, but we're going to let it sit for 5 minutes, and during that time it'll come up to 165 degrees, but it won't overcook, okay? That's the trick. That's the trick to have nice juicy chicken and not have it dry and overcooked. The other thing is, if you don't want to use chicken breast, you can use chicken thighs, no problem. As long as it's boneless, you're fine. So, 325 degrees for an hour or so, and I'll see you back here then. Okay, y'all, this is just coming out of the oven. I still need to let it set. What I forgot to tell you before is during the last 10-15 minutes of cooking, I like to take the foil off so that the stuffing can brown and crisp up a little bit. Nobody wants soggy stuffing. Nobody does. Okay, this is more than warm enough, so we're just gonna let that sit for a couple of minutes. And while it's sitting, I'm gonna go ahead and garnish it with some fresh thyme. The leaves are so tiny that you don't really need to chop them up. I just move them down the stem, and it just adds, you don't want a whole stem in there. It just adds a little bit of green and it's kind of pretty. It doesn't take very many. This is what thyme looks like. Little bitty tiny leaves, and you're not really adding flavor. You're just sort of adding some color to it. So it's totally not necessary, but it is pretty. And that should be about right. So I'll see you back here in about 5 minutes. All right, we're just gonna pull some chicken out of there. Put it on the plate. Look how juicy and tender that is. It makes a gravy here. So you've got your chicken and your stuffing and your gravy all right on the plate. So y'all, this is a super easy dinner. It does take some time because it takes an hour to bake, but it's so easy to put together. This chicken comes out so tender and is so delicious. And the cheese is gooey. Look at that. So good. It tastes just like fall. It's one of my favorite fall dishes. I hope you'll try it. I hope you'll love it. I'm sure you will. And I hope you'll come back, okay? Don't forget to subscribe. There's a subscribe button on here somewhere, and just punch it and you'll always know when a new video comes out. And yeah, I will talk to y'all next week. Love y'all. Bye-bye.